The clock is different. No. Green Hill, are you ready? Okay. We'll call to order the December 5th governance meeting for the Tarrant County College Board of Trustees. Is there any public comment? No, sir. And we do have a quorum. We have one missing out of seven, so we have a quorum. Okay, 3, we'll review the proposed board action items. Item A, and Walt Williams is going to. Item A is consideration and approval of contract with Cable Plumbing LLC to perform South Campus Sewer Rehabilitation Phase 2 in the amount of $137,365.75.
It is correct. Basically, that's a continuing project at South Campus to upgrade our 50-year-old infrastructure there, and in this case, sanitary sewer. Any questions?
No questions. Item B, consideration and approval of contract with Chambers Engineering LLC to perform South Campus pavement repairs in the amount of $209,884.
Similarly, this is an aged system, albeit not as dirty, but it's basically a survey was done at all campuses, and we've done TR, and we've moved on to south here for repairs of our walkways mainly.
Okay. Questions? Discussion? Okay. We'll move on to item C, consideration and approval of contract with Enviromatic Systems to perform Northwest Campus Fire Academy and Special Use Facility Direct Digital Controls upgrade in the amount of $455,251.74.
This is an upgrade to a building automation system. It's not currently the district standard, and it's near the end of its useful life. It was put in when the building was put in around 2002. And when we upgrade now, we're trying to consolidate systems into as few as we can.
Questions? Ms. Ayala?
I do have a question, but it's more along the lines of procurement. Shall I address that to you? And
probably not.
Okay. Sorry. Do what? Okay. The question is, it says here the firm commits to 2.3% MWBE participation. Is that based on the, what is that based on, the 2.3%?
This particular, this was through a cooperative we piggyback on, or in this case, I believe it was Bible, is that correct? And the 2.3%, we asked them to do what they can, and they had just some small pieces here that they could subcontract out. The rest is self-performed. So that's where the 2.3% came in.
So it's based on the total?
Total, yeah, the total
Okay.
span, yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If there are no further questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Susan? Item D, consideration and approval of City of Fort Worth Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 4 Tax Exemption Resolution.
Sorry. Okay, we're good now. This may be the first time that you've seen one of these, but it's a property owner at 125 South Main who's applied for a tax exemption under the city ordinance that allows them to freeze their taxable value prior to the investment that they're making. Because they're part of a TIF, state law actually requires each of the members of the tax increment financing district to also individually approve their participation. Essentially, their city taxes will be frozen at their current level, and so the TIF won't benefit from the growth. However, all of the other taxing entities will, so they'll benefit from from what they would pay in county taxes, and also since we're only a 50% participant, the Tarrant County College District will receive our portion as well. So, any questions?
Questions, discussion?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4, other briefings, and we'll start off with the Rainwater Initiative, Fort Worth ISD Rainwater Initiative with Jeremy Smith and Rose Bradshaw.
So members, if you recall last month, I shared with you a very, very large or broad overview, if you will, of an initiative that we've really been talking about for a couple of years now with the Fort Worth ISD and community partners. And I gave you that briefing today. Jeremy Smith from Rainwater and Rose Bradshaw from the North Texas Community Foundation are here to speak a little bit more detail, share a little bit more of the why, frankly, why this is important, and give some indication of next steps and direction that we're going in. And it'll be a little bit of time before we completely pull the trigger on this, but want to bring you along as some of this dialogue and planning has gone. So Jeremy, Rose, thank you for being here.
All right. Well, thank you, Chancellor, for inviting us. Thank you, committee, for having us. We're very excited to present to you. I'm Jeremy Smith. I'm the president of the Rainwater Charitable Foundation. Rose will introduce herself in just a moment. We have, I mean, we could talk about this all day long. So I think you have the slides behind you. I don't know if you have hard copies, but
We need more
We need more volume.
oh, sorry. Okay. Testing. Oh, is that better? Yes. Okay, perfect. So, so we'll just jump right into how all of this work kind of came about and the status of the research that we're doing. Rose.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm Rose Bradshaw, president of the North Texas Community Foundation. You know, at the foundation, we represent more than 240 families and businesses who have as diverse interests as you can possibly imagine. But the one thing they all hold in common is that they love this town and they want to make sure it's strong for generations to come. And as I learned from Mayor Barr and from Chancellor Giovannini, and as you all know, our future depends upon local schools preparing each child for success. And so we also know that when we want to make investments, we've got to make sure we're working from good information and working with great partners. So we were thrilled when Rainwater turned to us and said, let's learn more about this issue and think through how philanthropy can help support the effort, not only to support the Fort Worth ISD and TCC, but make sure, again, that each student has a pathway to success. So some of the information we're going to share with you here today, you know well. You already know that too many students arrive at your doorstep underprepared by the systems that they've been participating in the past and requiring a lot of remediation. You also know that tuition is not the major impediment they face. There are too many other factors that are stumbling blocks and obstacles for them. And so you knew all that. We had a general idea, but boy, when we looked at the facts, I have to tell you, we were pretty stunned. And we think it's really important that philanthropy understand this, that we understand it as a community, and that we think through together how we can address it. So I'm going to start off with just a couple of high-level slides, and then Jeremy's going to just get into more detail. So here with this slide, you'll see we hear about the 60 by 30 goal, but if you think about 65% of North Texas jobs requiring a post-secondary credential, and how are we going to get there? If today in Tarrant County, 23% of 8th graders achieve a college credential within 6 years of high school graduation. So let that sink in for a minute. If you look at this, looking back at the cohort from 2008, by 2012, 25% of them have already fallen through the cracks. By 2012, 53% do not enroll in college. And by 2018, 6 years later, 77% have not earned a 2 or 4 year degree. We know that there's many more options, many great options provided here at Tarrant County for career and technical pathways. But just look at those numbers and you can imagine what they mean across our community. Now this is grabs your attention when you think about, for all of us, for many of us, education was our pathway. And for those whose families are least prepared, 1 in 10 for those who are economically disadvantaged are able to earn a college credential. So when we talk about education opening doors, Boy, when 90% can't get all the way through, we've got an issue. So let's again look at that 60 by 30 goal. If Tarrant County is going to meet that, we're going to need to more than double our current rate of degree attainment. And we also know, this isn't in your deck, we're happy to share more information behind any of these slides or any of the information you see, but if we're successful, even moderately successful, it's going to have a huge economic impact in our community. With a minimum of $500 million in annual wage growth, when you look at each individual, their family, and what this means and compounded over time, it's just incredible. But look at that bottom number. So our current pace is about 1.5%. If we keep doing what we're doing, we are still going to be about 14% short of where we need to hit. So we've got to more than double that rate to be increasing by about 3.6% per year. So I'll turn it over to Jeremy to talk about some of the things we learned as we looked not only here at what's working well here, some of the interventions that are just really powerful that have been implemented here at Tarrant County College, and then also across the country to see what works and see what we might be able to do better.
Okay, so figure out how to work this. Oh, perfect. All right, so as Rose mentioned, so over the last several months, we've been kind of on a learning, I'll call it adventure. You know, the Rainwater Foundation has been around for almost 30 years. I think we've made less than 5 gifts in post-secondary education. So we know very little about this space, and I think a lot of this that we're sharing will be no news to you, but for a lot of this we were really shocked to learn and are very excited to make this kind of the next chapter of our work. So this group of individuals has been very active for the last several months in learning together, including TCC's very own Bill Coppola, who I think is watching remotely. It's been just an incredible group of people. They all have come to the table with different perspectives, but I think the one thing that we hold in common is a core belief that, you know, some sort of post-secondary credential has the power to change lives, and in aggregate has the power to transform our community. And so we have been meeting, and I will just say, just to kind of put a personal kind of note to this, you know, I know there's several stories that people can share. I'm looking at Teresa because I know we've shared stories in the past. But you know, my own family, when I look at my grandparents, my grandfather was the first in his family, in either side of my family, to get some sort of post-secondary credential by joining the U.S. Navy, and afterwards was a longshoreman, and you know that allowed him to provide for his family and allowed for, you know, my parents, who were the first in their respective families to ever go to or finish college. And so, you know, my brother and I grew up in a world where, you know, post-secondary education was the expectation. It was never a debate. And I think that's exactly what we want. And by the way, the Rainwater family has a similar story. And I think that is what drives us in this work, and that's really what we want for every single family in our community. And so that is what is, I think, driving everyone in this group and driving what we want to share today in terms of what we've learned. So I will say there's 4 key learnings. So this group visited Buffalo, New York. We visited Nashville, Tennessee. Tennessee Achieves, the original promise work that we hear so much about. We visited Atlanta Achieves. We went all the way over to Dallas as well and talked to the Dallas Promise folks. And I would say there's 4 key takeaways from that. One is we have a lot working for us already in Tarrant County. So, you know, Stay the Course, which helps with, as you know, helps with persistence of current TCC students. Stars of Tomorrow, we've got early college high schools in every quadrant of our city and across the county, dual credit programs. We've got a lot to build on, so that was good. In fact, in all these places that we visited, it was really clear that you know, mouths dropped when they heard some of the infrastructure that we already have in place in Texas in general and Tarrant County in particular. Number 2, it feels like the stars are aligning to do something really big, like Texas big, right here at home in Tarrant County. So HB 3 is really landmark legislation that, for the first time, incentivizes school districts to pay attention to college and CCRM standards, and you know, nudges the district to do some of the things that we know are the most impactful for students. Two, the governor's 60 by 30 campaign also has raised awareness around the state about the need to, for especially for that critical 25 to 35-year-old group to attain post-secondary degrees, credentials. And of course, the promise campaigns that are happening around the country are growing are becoming more and more common. And so we just feel like the time to act is now. And so number three, I would say, we have learned that there are ways that we believe that we can dramatically increase the students who are ready, who matriculate into post-secondary institutions, and who finish by A, scaling the interventions that work, B, making it easy for parents to and families to, and of course students to navigate the system, and then of course number three is working on ways to align systems so that it's easy. So, for example, there's no reason why when a student leaves Fort Worth ISD and comes to TCC that TCC staff have to start all over again in figuring out who the student is and what their interests are and what kind of background they had in high school, when we can share systems so that that is seamless across, And so again, we visited places where that's the case, and we want to make that happen for students here. So there's a lot on this slide, and I could spend all day on it. We definitely, if you don't have the slides, we will happily share them. We wanted to put kind of everything that's kind of in scope, so you have it. But there's three things I want to highlight. I love the funnel analogy because it is, that's kind of what we have here. So, and if you think about a funnel of all of our students kind of going to, and of course, hopefully going through some sort of credential process post-secondary and after they graduate high school, we want to widen the top of the funnel. So that's where the scholarship comes into play, and we want to what we're calling kind of plug the leaks. And the one thing I'll mention about plugging the leaks, I think the biggest leak is the fact that so many 60 to 70%, if not north of that, Chancellor, new students come onto TCC's campus requiring some sort of remedial work, and that's just unnecessary and really unacceptable. So a lot of what we're talking about, in fact, 2 out of every $3 is really aimed at helping students in middle school and high school get to leave high school ready for whatever they choose to do. And I'd love to get into a lot of those are details of how a lot of that happens, but we think that's going to be critical. So based on what we've seen in other places, we think a promise-style scholarship, so providing last dollar scholarships for all students who have financial need, will certainly bring a wave of students to campus, and that's great. But if they're not ready, and the supports are not in place to help them succeed, then what have we really done? We really haven't done our job. So, and then the very bottom, I think the one thing I would point out about widening in the bottom of the funnel is really scaling, I think, again, work that's already happening regarding persistence coaching, emergency funds, but things that we know that our most high-need students need in order to persist. All right, so here's a summary of kind of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. I'll just focus on 2 things on this slide, and I've kind of hinted at them before. We really are trying to find ways that scale what's working today, and we're really trying to find ways that systems can work together to the benefit of students and families. And then, again, we've kind of listed out kind of all of the guiding principles to how in terms of kind of figuring out what the partnership would take on. So this is a novel partnership idea. It is, we have had lots of talks with Chancellor Giovannini and Superintendent Scribner. This is something that we ultimately want to be Tarrant County-wide, and we're now trying to figure out what is the right way to start, and then what is the right way to scale. Nothing that we're talking about is brand new, but we haven't found anywhere in the country that kind of combines all of these kind of interventions into one partnership, and so we're very excited about what it can mean for our students and families. Okay, I have one more slide here just to give you a sense of the timing. and then we'll open it up for questions. Again, there's a lot on this slide as well. I think what I would highlight is you probably won't read anything about this until this coming up summer when we kind of go public, unless this video goes viral, which I guess it could being recorded, who knows. And then in the fall of 2020, I think the plan is to launch in a smaller set of, around 12 to 15 middle schools and high schools. So they will get the, kind of the full treatment in terms of the, it should feel very different for students walking onto those campuses for the in the fall of 2020. And then in the fall of 2021, the first wave of T3 scholars will start washing upon the shores of TCC in the various colleges around the county. Yeah.
So if you think about that, right now we want to meet with groups like yours, and of course, this body with the leadership at Fort Worth ISD, with all the partners on the ground, and then thinking about staffing the effort, launching, as we said, in the summertime, and then in the fall, what will be really different at Fort Worth ISD is they're going to have career and college-ready courses, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, where the students will be introduced to these concepts in required courses. And then navigators will come in the high school level to be able to be a resource to families. And then mentoring will come along. And so this really has many different levels to it. And the scholarships are there at the end, at the top, to make sure that we can seal the deal. But there's so much work that's going to have to happen starting in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Thank you. Yeah, I glazed over that. That's actually, I think, where it happens, the magic happens, if you will. Yeah, the scholarship piece is, very important, but I think it's very clear if you talk to the originators of the Promise program in Tennessee, the scholarship is definitely not enough. And so, the idea of a partnership, so, we will invest in our next generation, but that next generation has to invest in themselves. There's a pledge. And so students are pledging to do the things that we know are correlated with post-secondary success, regardless of whatever pathway they choose, and then we come alongside with the scholarship and other supports. So that was a lot. Happy to take any questions or discussion.
So when you talk about hiring initial staff and so forth, are you setting up a separate organization? How's that going to work, and how's that going to work with the ISDs and TCC?
So the proposal is that there will be a support structure. It's very lean staff that basically helps the partners coordinate the services that are happening. So, kind of the four main pillars. So there's a leader, and then the four main pillars are the person who works with school districts. So primarily focused on what happened, the student experience that happens with middle school students and high school students. Not with in any district who wants to join. So districts who join the partnership will commit to doing, basically committing to a post-secondary plan. So they're going to do A, B, and C, and then the partnership raises funds for the navigation and for the mentorship and for the other things that we know kind of help students succeed. So there's one person who kind of coordinates all that. There's one person who does the same thing for post-secondary institutions. There's a person who, coordinates the data platform. Again, I think shared data is a really powerful way that we can make things as seamless as possible for students. So yes, there is as long as your question, yeah, there is an organization that focuses on those things.
You helped explain it to me more. I'm just having difficulty connecting the dots on this project. So each district will go to schools, and there will be a plan, right? A plan. So is the scholarship for students that excel in this, or is this for everybody? It's for all students, but scholarships are a plum for somebody that excels in it, or how does that work?
Yep. So the scholarship, any student that qualifies financially and who lives in a T3 school, so
A T3 school,
which is
okay.
ultimately, we want that to be literally every school in the county. So
Okay.
it's unclear exactly how we will scale.
Okay, so, all right.
Yeah, so if you live in Tarrant County and you qualify financially, then you will get a scholarship for where you go. Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
now I'm
Yeah.
getting it.
Now it's a little so if it's no, and this is a great question. This was not you didn't miss anything. This was not good. We kept it at 50,000 feet. If you go to TCC, then it's a last dollar scholarship. And then TCC students are also eligible for emergency funds and persistence coaching depending on the student. If you go to a 4-year university, then it's what we're calling a first dollar scholarship that goes directly to the student for a certain amount. But it's not designed to cover all of, it'll cover, $1,000, $2,000. Yeah.
Let me put it in a historical context. So typically, for a long, long time, 20 to 25% of all the high school students that graduate go to a college, mainly a university. And that was true 30 years ago and 40 years ago, and it's true today, that 20 to 25%. 30 or 40 years ago, a big chunk of that other student body beyond the 20, 25% could go to work because there were jobs available that the skill level was such that that's no longer true. So to put it in context related to who's being served here, that's different. That 20 to 25% are still going to make it to a university and find this is to really focus on a lot of the underserved. That next big group, chunk, 60, 80%, whatever you want to account for, to do something intentful and purposeful to address their readiness. Because, in fact, they may come out of high school, one, not ready academically, and two, they may choose a path, even though they're prepared, may choose a path that's not a traditional four-year university. Now, that's not to say we don't want anyone in this body to go to a four-year university. That's not what we're saying. We hope they do, certainly. But if you really want to put this in context as to what's different, what's the big deal, the so what, is really addressing a group that, frankly, has been ignored and underserved for decades. And today, you cannot ignore them. You have to serve them because you will pay one way or another if you don't. And so what the good research that's done was found is that just putting people in college isn't good enough. People have to be prepared. And as you speak to the promise programs around the country, the thing they'll say over and over again that we wish we took into consideration or what's not working is just that students are coming, there are more people filling out FAFSA forms, they're getting financial aid, they're going to college, but they're no better prepared. So we're really not moving the needle. So there's two real distinctions to this. One is which to focus on that group that has not been served. And second, really is to ensure that they are prepared, not just providing them the opportunity to go to college, but to go to college prepared or go into the workforce prepared.
Yeah, okay.
So where is this going to start in education? Obviously, it can't start with the senior class. Where do you start? What level?
So, do you want to take this?
So we will start with the senior class with the opportunity to have supports around mentoring and around scholarship support as effective September of 2020. Those students will be able to take advantage of this opportunity in 2021 here at TCC and at other schools. But what we think the big important investment is, it's just as Dr. Giovannini said, to start early, start in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and that's where the intensive supports will start. Right now, we're looking at rolling out to 4 to 5 high schools of the most underserved in our community, and then with the plan to roll out and add schools each year, with hopefully complete penetration across Tarrant County eventually. So we're trying to figure out the timeline and the priorities for each of those areas.
Yeah, and I will say, so yeah, five high schools and then the 8 feeder middle schools to those high schools. I think your question is a really good one because what we will be looking at lots of different outcomes, but one of the outcomes that we'll be looking at is the college readiness rates of the students who are coming to TCC. We think because we want to start with, as Rose said, the entire school, perhaps some of the seniors who are coming who would not otherwise be coming because of this program are not going to be as prepared as we want. The next year, we think a few of them more will be prepared, but it's really going to be 3 or 4 years in, especially when you start getting into the middle school students that will get the interventions in middle school and then go through high school. That will be, so professionals will notice the difference starting in years 3 and 4.
Yeah, they've got to see the vision at an early age. You understand that why they go into high school. It's not just because they have to. It's because there's something beyond that.
Absolutely, and parents as well. So,
yeah.
Can you talk a minute about what I would call the mechanics of this? What's the impact look like? We're talking about getting the students prepared. What are we really talking about? What do you see being done that's not being done now?
Oh, yeah. Yep. So let me take a stab and, fill in what I missed. So we're talking about a course in 6th grade that students will experience that start talking about the importance of middle school math and how it ties to lots of, how it really ties to lots of different career trajectories. They get a dosage of that in 7th grade, and then they get a dosage of that in 8th grade. Also in middle school, there are navigators who are focusing on, again, those middle students that are, you got the high flyers, the top 30% that, kind of have things figured out, and they're going to, without any prompting, going to figure out a way to get, to and through. But we're talking about focusing on those students who are just might not know what to do, might not have anyone at home that is helping them figure things out. And then there's a big parent component too. So again, the idea is to give, families as many opportunities as well to understand the importance of, again, 8th grade algebra is a really important time. My parents didn't know that. But that has, for families who know they want their kids to go to college, I mean, that course can mean tens of thousands of dollars depending on what that student wants to do, right? If you do well in that class and do well in your ACT, SAT scores, you qualify for significant scholarships that you wouldn't otherwise do. I think just letting parents know will have a significant effect. And then when they get into college, that's when the 9th graders will see a huge campaign. They'll see a pledge signing day. They won't be a part of it, but the 11th graders will, and they will see themselves there, and they will, again, we think that things like that will kind of start to change the culture of schools, and so that schools become a place where it's not uncommon to talk about post-secondary readiness and what path students are choosing and that sort of thing. And then, of course, you've got more internships that will be available, job shadow days that will be available, college visit days that will be available. So what students will experience will be very different. There will be, this is thanks to HB3. There will be universal. There's already universal FAFSA campaigns. There will be more emphasis on that. But all students will be. Let me go back to. Actually, I should have just come back to the slide here. There will be PSAT, SAT, and TSI offered in every single high school, and then there will be remedial classes for students who don't pass at a college level ready. They'll have an opportunity either as an elective or to take those classes before they graduate. So before they get here, right? So again, we're talking about and again, many of these things are already kind of in place. We're talking about scaling them, especially in the schools that kind of need the support the most. But we think all of those impressions, if you will, that happen starting in 6th grade will start to translate into students who are more ready when they get here.
Tarrant is a large county with several districts. So then how are you determining which, where to start? And I'm curious about the timeline. Some districts in Tarrant are doing better than others are. So, what goes into that determination factor? So the first question is, who first, why them, and then what about the other districts that feed into our college?
This one sounds hard. Do you want to take it, Rose?
We're starting with Fort Worth ISD
Okay.
because the most students are served right in Tarrant County by Fort Worth ISD. We also have the collaboration of the partnership with the leadership and also with Mr. Sines, who's leading the effort at Fort Worth ISD, and with his commitment to provide these CCMR classes in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. We think that's a great starting point. We're starting in the high schools that are most economically disadvantaged and most underperforming when we look across the board. And then we're thinking also about maybe some other outliers where it isn't those that are most economically disadvantaged, underperforming, but those that have the most potential to kind of quickly scale up. We're thinking about having maybe one or two like that. But then the plan is each year to add more to the cohort. And then as far as other district participation goes, we're going to have to really look to leadership from other districts and let's see their level of commitment, because we know these other supports are critical. And that's what we've learned across the country, is that without a collaborative partner in your ISD, you can't throw money at it. As we all know, that won't be the solution. So that's the plan.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, one of the things that I always think is important is, when the actual planning is taking place, I wonder, if these districts were invited to the table, because I would always, hear someone on the other end saying, well, we knew nothing about it. So talk to me about the genesis. How did this come about?
Yeah. So I think the genesis came. Our initial conversations have been with Fort Worth ISD.
Okay, so they were invited first.
They were invited. They're invited first, but
Period.
Okay. So and how that has come about is that, to be honest with you, that our foundation's work is, somewhere between 95 and 100% Fort Worth ISD based.
Okay, that's better. That helps me, because again, I think this is outstanding. So hear me beating the bell and beating the drum, saying, way to go. There are others of us who are trustees. However, our region, we said regions, and our constituents will ask us, some from Arlington, I'm from Mansfield. You got other places, people here at this table. So, all right.
So the other superintendents have been briefed on this. I've had a meeting with them all across Tarrant County.
Okay.
And so the good news is that there was a lot of interest. We had a really great discussion, and so it's, ultimately a district will choose to participate or not, and I believe based on just that, our very first meeting, everyone will participate. And now we're just at a place where just bandwidth, like we've got it,
Sure.
And so I appreciate the push, the nudge, the put. I'm not sure what it is, but continue to do that.
Yeah, because I would want to know if those other districts have the opportunity to opt in.
Yes.
Or not, because
Yep.
they all pay taxes, so we need to make sure that they all get a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So you're talking a little bit about changing culture. So how are you going to involve the families in this enterprise? Because they would be critical.
So this is something that have not found is done very well anywhere. It just didn't really come up. Other than this is something that a lot of organizations in Buffalo, Atlanta, that they are trying to do. So I will say two things. We have a couple of nonprofits here that do a very good job of integrating, empowering, involving parents early on this very topic. And so I think it's going to be learning from organizations like Con Mi Madre, Concilio, and others that are, this is their bread and butter. They do this all the time. So it's scaling those practices. The good news is that there are, parents want the best for their kids, and when they get information that is relevant to their families and their kids, they will, eat it up. And what we have to do is figure out what are the ways early on to give parents the information again. And it can't be done the way it's traditionally done. So, come to this meeting at this particular time and we'll give it to you, but we need to make it available in many different forms, in many different languages, in many different ways. We think having a team, we think that having a post-secondary plan, which is something that does not exist today for every school. So again, if a district participates, they're going to have a plan. And if we have a team of people who wake up every day thinking about this for their campuses, we will have capacity and bandwidth to create experiences so that parents can be involved early on.
Yes. Hello. Thank you. I'm happy to meet both of you, and I'm happy to learn of the work that you're doing. And I want to compliment you on the advisory group that you brought together. So it has long been a desire of mine to have the educational decision makers across the county to meet, to share common space and share common thoughts. And I suspect that Rainwater Foundation and your foundation is exactly the group that can bring that together, and it sounds like this is a plan where you can make that work. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I think what you're doing is critically important. And what is most exciting is that I sense a commitment and a willingness that'll go along with your capacity to get it done. And so I'm excited about helping, being part of it, and seeing it work to great success. Having said that, two things. As an early childhood education specialist, I want you to think early childhood, because you say sixth grade. Have you heard of the song, Everything I Learned in Kindergarten? So there's a lot of reality to that. And the other thing is, when students graduate fifth grade, their mindset is already pretty firm. And we know that most of them, if they're not, eighth grade is when they stop out, but sixth grade is when they drop out mentally. So I just want you to think about that a little bit. And also to say that I think everyone around this table and in this whole room are rooting for your success and want to be a part of not only the thought process, but the actions, the advocacy to help make it work.
Thank you. So the only thing I would say to that is amen and well said. Main focus for the last 10 years has been early childhood education, 0 to 5, and and like I said, everything you said is correct. And I think us not having firm plans related to that is a purely just a bandwidth thing. Yeah. But it's clear that this, like you said, what happened, students tend to act when they are of age on things that are already, they are in 5th and 6th grade, they're already like, this is not for me, this is not so we need to act as early as possible. And of course, parents are more involved as early as possible as well.
So you can build on the work that I knew of your work in the elementary, and so I would just say build on it. Don't separate it, but bring it forward with you.
Thank you.
Thanks
for
one question. Yes, I just have one question. Oh, go ahead, Bill. Do you have? Oh, thank you so much for all the work that you've done. I know there's been a lot of countless hours that have been applied to getting this presentation together, and then just with taking this concept to this point. I just had a question about what, if any, role the business community plays in this whole process. I would think because ultimately they're going to benefit, right, from this effort. So I was just curious what you found when you were visiting some of these other states.
In other states, it's been interesting because the business community they've been leaders on this because they recognize the workforce issues that are emerging. We've heard that from our business leaders as well. And at the Community Foundation, many of the families that we represent are people who have been successful in business, and they're concerned for the future. And so we wanted to make sure we had the model right. And then the business leaders have said to us, let us know when you've got something ready to go. And I think that they'll step up, and we're working now with them in the next couple of months to reach out individually. But I'm confident that our leadership recognizes the importance of the issue and will step up.
And then specifically what we will be asking them to step up and do is, one is funding to help students, be it scholarships, be it the advising support that we've been talking about. That's one. Number two is providing more internships for opportunities. And again, not just for high school students, but also community college students. And then number three, providing more job shadow day opportunities. So giving students experiences that, we know many of our students can't imagine. I couldn't imagine and I had two parents who were accountants, couldn't imagine what an engineer did. And so giving students as many opportunities as possible to kind of see different careers in action. that's number 2. And then number 3, there's a community mentorship, volunteer mentorship program component in this as well. So we want every high school student who, regardless of where they decide to go, to have a mentor when they are during their senior year and in their freshman year. So I think business will play a key role in helping us recruit community volunteers to mentor.
Again, ditto to all the kudos for your hard work and the ambition here. It's going to be a real making a difference in our community, without a doubt. I'm excited about that. Just wanted to ask you, you mentioned, I think on the second page of your slides, about 65% of North Texas jobs require a post-secondary credential. And by the term post-secondary, I assume that's a broad term.
Yes.
And would include college, would include 2-year, 4-year, would include career and technical, et cetera. So when we look at the second bullet there, and we talk about that the 23% achieve a college credential within 6 years, is that term college also broad to mean the post-secondary credential?
That's right. Credential, 2-year degree, 4-year degree.
So it's not just that we're seeking in this program to have all the students graduate from 2 or 4-year college, but instead it could be licensure, certification, those
That's
types
right.
of success points. Yeah. Okay.
And that makes Tarrant County College an ideal partner and one that our other partners or models nationally don't have, with where we have
Absolutely.
the college and the trade and technical
Yeah.
training.
Yeah. Well, I just didn't see that expressed, and I think that's important. Yeah. Yeah.
So at the risk of overstaying my welcome, I do want to just thank Chancellor Giovannini for it's been great collaborating up to this far, and Bill Coppola, who's been his point person throughout this process. And thank you all for what you do for our county. I mean, I think I'm trying to remember Bill's phrase. He's like, we serve the top 100% or something like that. And so, this college system is the kind of bedrock for so much economic growth that does happen in this county. So thank you for all that you do day in and day out, or in your role as in terms of governance. So
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take a look at our governance projection report. Walt Williams and Mr. Pacheco. You have this in your folder. Just look that over, and if you have any questions, suggestions.
I do have one item to this that is not on this governance here. Is one of your elite members is getting a bionic upgrade in January, and because of that, our Microsoft agreement that normally goes in January, we're going to be presenting it to the board meeting next week.
An upgrade. Who would that be?
Well said.
So translation will have an additional item on the agenda next week.
Questions, discussions? Thank you. Appreciate it. And now we'll have the Tarrant Appraisal District update. Carol Bracken.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I had sent to you previously some biographies of the various people who are requesting, who are nominated to serve on the Tarrant Appraisal District's board. we will need at the board meeting next week, the board will need to decide how to apportion the district's 294 votes among the various candidates that have put themselves forward for those positions. One of the things that we also gave you is a copy of the ballot that you filled out last year on how you decided to apportion those votes. And if there are any questions or any additional information you'd like me to gather for you between now and next week, please let me know.
Do we have an accounting for the votes that have been cast by the various entities to date?
We do not.
Yes, we
That-
do. Actually, I have those. I actually have those. And if you
Oh,
want to
great.
distribute, I just happen to have copies for everybody. Up there.
Take one and pass it like that.
Yes, ma'am, please. Just for your information.
Are these going to be also closed session?
I'm sorry?
These say they're listed closed session items right here.
I thought we were going to discuss this in closed session.
We can.
Okay.
If that's the case, we'll reconvene
sorry.
then.
Thank you, Carol. And Chancellor Updates.
Good, thank you. Just a couple things to update you on. First, we've had a few discussions since the retreat related to signing authority and consent items on the agenda, and we've shared along the way what we have found. And that change will require some board action. And so subsequent to the last board meeting, we did a little bit more due diligence and spoke with Mr. Heed related to it. And we continue to believe that the signing authority should remain at $100,000, and so anything beyond that will require board action. Further look at across the state and what the colleges are doing. There are a number of colleges, 5 or 6 in particular, that are around close to our size, that their threshold for anything to go on consent is under $1 million, as we had spoke last time. So anything over $1 million would stay on the regular agenda. As we looked at that, many of them delineate construction projects related to anything over 100 to $1 million to stay on the regular agenda and that not go to consent. So I'll bringing forward, if there's no objection, a resolution for that type of action such that the signing authority would remain at 100,000. Everything beyond construction projects would have $1 million threshold, would go on consent. If it's over 100,000 and it is a construction project, regardless of an amount, it will go on the regular agenda. And I just think that's also a good form of transparency, given where we're going to be over the next 5 or 6 years. And it is a practice by the other colleges, so we're not unique in that. So is that understood? You know, kind of what I'm saying? Okay, so we'll bring that back for you. Okay. Couple other things. At the retreat also, we talked about a board assessment. Subsequent to that, we've done some work with ACCT to secure that process and opportunity. We've engaged with them related to a draft item of what a board assessment might look like. I've shared that with Mr. Heed for him to provide some feedback to us. And then we will work with ACCT within the next 2 months to formalize another retreat, if you will, around that assessment. You'll have some homework before that to do, and we'll lay that all out for you. But probably the earliest we're going to be able to get to it with everything, the consultant and all, will probably be mid to late February. That may be the earliest we're able to get to it. So we will now be sharing them any edits that we think are appropriate to the assessment item, and then they'll do their thing, and there'll be a whole process in which you'll be contacted individually with that item for you to do it online, that assessment online, and so forth, and then we'll move forward with that. So that's the update there. So perhaps we might be able to do it immediately after the Congress meeting at ACCT in Washington in February, but no promises. We're still working with a consultant it's not all up to us. Okay? Question there?
I thought what we might do, and I talked to Reg about this, about possibly sending out the list of questions that we looked at to the board members.
If that's your desire, we can do that, yes.
Yeah, and then the board members can get back to me with any suggestions for additional questions or whatever. But I think it's really good.
Good. So just another item for an update that you asked for. I did some due diligence with the campus presidents related to our DACA students and programs and services around that. Much of that continues, programs and services as well as legal services for the individuals and the families. Some of those attendance has dropped off over time in terms of accessing those types of services, but we did ask also what is there related to any additional services or change in services that may be asked for or needed, and there really hasn't been anything that has been brought forward. So we did do that due diligence with the presidents. It was reported, our only way to report the number of DACA students that we have is through if DACA students who apply for in-state tuition, and they can do that if they are 3 years at a Texas high school and graduate, they qualify for in-state tuition. So if they apply for that, then we know by numbers, who those folks are. So we have 1,556 DACA students by that definition. Those are students who 3 years at a Texas high school, graduated, and applied for in-state tuition. And that's really the best we can do in terms of any, with any reliability, if you will, as to a number. Now, I'm sure there are students who perhaps didn't apply for the in-state tuition. So very likely the number is higher, but that's what we know. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. I just have a question. How has staff engaged, say, like the student group leader or leaders that came forward in the past meeting in regard to what does that dialogue look like? Has there been any communication with said group?
Leave that to the presidents if they have any. I don't know firsthand.
Not since the last.
Okay, and I'll tell you why I ask, because usually when if you engage these people or persons who have concerns, it could be anybody. Oftentimes it's better to talk with them to hear what said concerns are in a neutral environment or what have you, where there can be more so dialogue. Of course, I don't think the public understands that during public comments we can't comment. But I think that if that concern is out there on said campuses, maybe be on one or two campuses as opposed to all of our campuses. Sometimes it's good to, let's go to a room, let's have coffee, and let's talk about what your concerns are, and said groups will find out that or discover that there are services that are available to them that they may not know about. So that's why I'm asking. I didn't at all think that we were just willy-nilly not doing anything. I do think, though, at times it's good to engage with groups and to see what the concerns are, and let them know that we are listening and working with them. So that's the reason behind a rationale behind my question.
Reg?
Just as a follow-up, Chancellor, so we have made that commitment, and actually the two young ladies who spoke were from community organizations, and we met them at an outing we had, and I follow up with one, and Maria is working to schedule a visit for us. So.
And they were not students of TCC.
Thank you, Reg. The last item I want to update you on are the health centers where we have procured through legal counsel, who also happen to be a nurse, what would be the appropriate orders for our health centers to offer, if you will, or be directed to offer. We are currently in discussion with some local providers to help facilitate that. So in essence, we're looking for a medical directorship of that, and we're looking at some public partner within the community to help us provide that service. So, so that's moving forward as it relates to addressing. Any questions on that?
I do. What's the general timeline on that, please?
Yeah, as soon as we possibly can. So the orders have been drafted. The job description of the medical director has been, or directors perhaps, has been drafted. That's been shared with community partners. And we've gotten some very positive feedback from one in particular, and that's, so it's going to be up to them as to how quickly they can help facilitate it. We can do it today if we had the director, so we're going to have to work with that partner, if you will, to ensure the proper medical director oversight. And so I would hope in a matter of weeks here. I mean, we have the holidays coming, but this is a priority.
Yeah, thank you.
And so, in the meantime, urgent and emergency needs are handled through the police department?
They do, yes, which they would continue to do anyway, given the orders, yes. There is a good Samaritan, if you will, if someone is in need, like a nurse or any one of us that would provide. But yes, the general practice is through police.
So, perhaps, and I know we've had the last collegian for the semester, but since that seemed to have sent a ripple through the community, college community, something on the website to speak to that might be a good thing.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
If there are no more questions, discussion, the TCC board will conduct a closed meeting in this room as authorized by Section 551 of the Texas Government Code in order to A, seek the advice of its attorneys, B, deliberate real property matters, C, deliberate personnel matters, or D, deliberate security devices or security audits. And we will convene after the closed session. Using the big gavel. reconvene the governance meeting of Thursday, December 5th of the Board of Trustees, Tarrant County College. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Ms. Ayala and second by Dr. Evans. We are adjourned.